Hello, lovely starseeds and light workers. It's Alexander Quinn, Starseed Navigating the Light. And about 72 hours ago, I was sat at my desk pondering why are souls feeling lost in these high vibrational energies at this moment in time. So I started tapping into my Arcturian self, and what actually happened is two incredibly tall blue beings, more ancient than the Arcturians came through to conduit, help me with the message. And what came through was quite detailed, quite long. I've got it on 2 bits of paper. I'm actually just going to read it through. I've broken it down into little sections, and whatever the coding or the frequency that is behind these words is clearly more powerful than my laptop can handle, because every time I try and read it, it's taken me a few times. My laptop just can't handle the frequency of the coding of these words. So this is probably like the 3rd time I'm trying to read this, and it's taken a while for my laptop to calm down. So so the energy of these two incredibly tall blue beings, if I stand next to them, my head would appear next to what would be their knees. So I'm just going to try and read this as clearly and slowly as I can. There's a lot of it. There's some incredible detail. It took me a while to read it back and understand it myself. And here we go. Okay. Your planet is set up as such that you live in a modern era. This is like a fast train speeding past a scenery of potentials that you decipher and attach to as you travel from your point A to B. Your innate is operating at all times to offer you the highest potentials for soul growth, based on intention and location within your development. Duality still exists in abundance on your planet, and this is a perceptual tool that can stagnate or accelerate, which is relational not only to where your mind wishes to go, but which your soul, which is more closely related to helping the collective of the planet as a result. Okay, so I would say that first bit is moderately fairly self-explanatory. Your modern world keeps you in a state of perpetual busyness. Your children, bills and office, walking the dog, shopping for food, and many other facets, including your 24-hour-a-day entertainment, keeping the mind pacified after a long day of work, because your modern world has depleted any energy for anything else that might be available. Light workers on Earth are akashically biased in that they have cellular and soul knowledge of previous existences. This is partly why you are veiled, because if you had full working knowledge of how powerful you really were, you would wonder why on earth you came to Earth. I like that pun. And you would not be able to do your work as carefully and sacredly as you are now without arriving on the radar of other watchful eyes. That is incredibly true. I am aware that there are, or certainly were, beings, groups that were looking for very, very high frequency beings coming in so that they could trap them, and all sorts of things. So it provides a temporary level of ignorance as a platform so that you can expand without knowing how much you have given up in order to be in more economical service to Gaia at this time, but still have the vibrational coding necessary for her grids, which often you are implementing without knowing, both in waking and sleeping hours. Now, I know that there are a lot of starseeds and light workers that don't remember their dreams, or they can't remember their dreams. Some of them are actually in a soul protection program. They're not allowed to access their dreams because they're actually doing a lot of incredibly important work. And sometimes when we are trying to get in touch with other people's Akashic records, there are actually barriers. There are beings protecting us from getting in there because your work is so important. So that makes perfect sense. Let's go to the next bit. The Akashic bias still remains in many light workers, however, which operate out of your DNA, often coming to the surface as something conceptual conveyed by emotion. Some of you in the non-physical world are creators of galaxies and planets. I mean, that's extraordinary that these beings are coming through and saying that some of us have actually been creators of entire worlds. whilst others have inhabited a crystalline body operating parameters far beyond your current physical vessel, and the bias they too hold from a reality not of this world. I mean, that is extraordinary. Previous processes have widely differed in these future and previous existences. In an old Earth energy paradigm, manifestation required more steps. For example, a 5-step assimilation from an old Earth being. And then they give me this assimilation, which I am aware of, that's come through before, a sort of a transitory sort of progression of steps: soul, thought, emotion, action, manifestation. Manifestation being the end goal. Light workers in previous incarnations are used to paradigms off Earth that exist nearer to the instantaneous processes equating to soul, thought, and manifestation, missing out 2 of these steps. Little or no work is needed, so Starseeds in one sense would be correct in wanting a quick fix spiritually in terms of relational experienced manifestations, but also because their modern lives do not dictate the time and sanctuary available in order to exist in a state of soul growth intuitively wanted, and the time needed to truly honor these upgrades in terms of building new routines into the new emerging you that has integrated new aspects of your upgraded coding, because this involves work that the oldest of you on the front line didn't need to work through before, but now do. This time it will work if it didn't work before, even if it was the first half of this lifetime, especially prior to the great mark in 2012. So what I get from that little bit personally is, we were doing some of the spiritual work for in a low energy, it wasn't coming through, it wasn't working for us, and now we are in these much higher energies. The coding can actually begin to activate, but we've got to put the work in ourselves. Okay? So we're on the last paragraph of the first piece of paper, and then we're going to go on to the next piece of paper, the last piece of paper. There's a lot of detail here. As the energy on your planet increases, a multi-dimensional part of you, a multi-dimensional part of all of you begins to awaken and want more, having vibrationally stepped out of another layer of your old self. However, the assimilation needed is then confused because the predispositions remembered at a DNA level, due to Akashic bias, Starseeds on a soul level still intuitively feel that the previous 3-step assimilation is available in their current format. This thinking is only 50% correct. Manifestation will begin to increase in speed as your chemistry and magnetics change. But what will not increase is the release of previous conditioning and attachments to an old Gaia that had stored itself in the cells of the body, which is partly Akashic, but also in the synapse of the mind. And because of this, a longer paradigm process is necessary that feels like work, because these changes are not only subconscious, but expansions that must be brought forward into the operating daily conscious mind of a human brain so that it can be realized at a level that is not fully crystalline yet. You cannot escape that you still have a human composition that is playing catch up with the incoming energies which operate at a fraction of what you are used to, not forgetting that you are taking your upgrading bodies into the new age unless you wish to transition into the non-physical. And we're coming to the last part of this paragraph. Many light workers in a modern age are shy of this because there are only so many hours in the day that allow for effort to become realized consciousness in the mind and body, but most importantly the heart, which is also expanding not only etherically but energetically, and you can feel this in your human body. And this last part is extraordinary. You are not taught multi-dimensional skills in your education systems, which are all about the mind negating the heart expansion feeling of the energetic world And this spirit world, which is seemingly beyond your six senses, 354 of which are yet to be fully activated and are even known about. I mean, that's extraordinary. So, my take on that is when you go to geometric coding and you look at the flower of life, you have perfect geometric coding. And sometimes when you go into very long meditations, there are certain starseeds and light workers that their job and their soul mission is grid working. So when you look at perfect geometric coding, when you look at the flower of life, you have 360 degrees. So if you were to take our six senses away from that perfect geometric coding, the six senses that we have, and you take that away, you would be left with 354. So let's carry on. It is all your conditioning, self-worth issues, ego problems, and trauma that require the effort to remove most of these diseases of the mind that can be cleared as fast as free will allows it to. It requires time and energy to now unlearn all that has kept you from being a creator in this reality yourself, and here lies the choice. These higher energies will bring you, we're on the last sheet now, will bring you to the starting line. But some will run at the sound of the gun because they do not see the effort involved, and others will remain at the starting line because their conditioning and mental state has adopted protective barriers that keep them never moving forward, though the energies are telling them to do otherwise. So it's quite extraordinary. You have this push-pull energy. You have this expansive energy saying, right, we're ready for more, and yet the mind and our previous conditioning is shutting us down. It makes perfect sense to me. This begins a contradictory vibratory feeling of being stuck and lost at the starting line, even though the gun has sounded. Do you skip forward momentum and try to arrive at the finish line feeling even more confused in the mind, or do you run the course of learning and understand the feeling, not the thinking, the feeling of the new energies at the finish line in a timely fashion that your brain and nervous system can handle, like building blocks, one at a time, by changing the small paradigms in your daily life? Coming up to the end of the third penultimate paragraph. Intuitively, those who remain at the starting line know that they will expand beyond all that they now know to outgrow their immediate lives, such as their current work and relationship situations, which are easier to hold on to than to let go of, not understanding that beyond the fear limitations of lack are upgrades in all those areas they thought not possible, which is extraordinary because as we, it's the ego that wants to hold us back, and it says we can't release this, we can't let go of this because there isn't going to be an upgrade here. And actually, as we go into these higher codings, the upgrades are going to be much, much better if we can just release and surrender. And that's what the last two paragraphs actually go into more detail about. Staying in an energetic box that requires little maintenance feels safe, even though everything in the new energy is telling us that we have outgrown that box and it is time to get moving. This is one of the largest contributing factors to feeling like a prisoner in our own reality, even though everything is seemingly fine with the perceived status quo. It is that contradictory energy of being lost, a place between places that free will can have a large variety of outcomes. And this is one of my favorite parts of the whole message. Lost is you working with you to leave the old you behind. I'm just going to read that again. Lost is you working with you to leave the old you behind. I think that is so poignant. It's so incredible, that message. It speaks volumes. A place between places. Okay, celebrate this and then take the leap of faith. Start to integrate small routines into your day that will expand you for spiritual and mind wellness, even if it means you have seemingly in your own mind to lose something, although this is not a reality perception that is true. It cannot be done for you by others because the synapse of the brain has to also cognize the growth, as your body cannot exist without the mind, which is usually running faster than the body can handle. Do not avoid these steps that will place you into spiritual expansion, because it is easier to place sticky black tape and come back to it later. I know we have all been guilty of doing that. High consciousness is not avoidance, but surrender and acceptance. Usually the opposite of what the reptilian part of your brain convinces you of. Reptilian groups are also expanding in this fashion, as many other parts of your galaxy will raise an octave. And you have many seedings from other visitors to your planet within the 98% of what your science calls erroneous biological information. And now we're going to come on to the last paragraph. Earth is one of the greatest free will experiments in this entire universe, and is why all eyes are on you at this moment in time. What choice will the light worker make? The outcome is inevitable either way, becoming a question of linear time and what the straight line, and on that straight line, Starseed or light worker will take the leap of faith. It's incredible how they call it taking the leap of faith. Why avoid the inevitable? This is nothing to fear, and fear is only the unhealed thought processes that you hold that still linger in an old paradigm, which are a smokescreen just waiting for you to walk through. I think that is so beautiful. Humans have a very special period of years on the planet Earth at this moment in time that offer an accelerated energy of expansion in all that you do being carried forward in lifetimes after this one. Your soul knows this and feels like something is inevitably about to happen at any minute, because your soul still has, on some level, is operating in galactic time outside of linear constraints and understands needing to get this done because of prior arrangements. Okay, coming up to the last half of the last paragraph. Souls will feel stuck and lost primarily because effort is needed to unlearn attachments and conditionings, which in a modern technological Earth is not time appropriate, especially when there is an akashic bias that says I'm used to doing this instantly in a body that can mentally assimilate all of this at multiples higher than my current brain synapse construction. This is why it takes time, something that the ego will try to convince you that you are in lack of. This will be the greatest free will choice of all, resulting in a group who will go on to inherit the planet you live on, and those who decide to return to other parts of the universe for other missions and adventures. Our final question to you is also the answer in itself. Why postpone what your soul came here to do? Use the tools you have now. Put them to work, Starseeds. You are needed at this time. You are the change. You are the light workers. Make work fun. Remember how to play. And we're coming to the last bit, which I think is just beautiful. Use the inner child. Get the imagination back online. That is partly where you will find us, although you will be asking what is happening when we begin to arrive at the parameters beyond your mind's imagination's eye. For this will not be your imagination. It will be the contact at etheric levels. And remember, your mind will try to shut that down. It is called mind control. And the only person or the only people that can control you are yourself. Nothing external can control you. So release your mind. Only you are in control of this. You are free. You are not lost. You are upgrading. Do not fear what you have come to do. You have already achieved this. It is now just playing it out. And those are the last words. And it was quite incredible when I got this, because usually sometimes it comes in and I write it down as it's coming in, but this came down all in one go. It was a bit like, the only way I can describe it is as a download, but you may have seen the film The Matrix with Keanu Reeves, and he's plugged into that chair, and they pull the thing out of the back of his head, and he wakes up and he goes, I can do Kung Fu. And Morpheus says, show me. And it's like that. So when these two incredibly tall beings, probably 4 times the size of me, came in, it all comes in at once. And then I write it down. So I hope that was as fascinating for you as it was for me. I had to just read this out instead of putting it in one of my usual formats. You might want to watch this back and see what your intuition feels about it. And have a great weekend. There's a lot of information there. And all my love. Have a beautiful weekend, and God bless. And things are on track. The light has already won. Thank you so much. Bye.